What is up, guys, gals, and everybody else? I just figured I'd do a little something different today. I was going over some audio. Hopefully, you guys can see that. Let me see if I just share it like that. You might get some of it. I figured you guys could listen in live. Let's see. Chrome ones. Yeah. Okay, so now. Wowzers, what happened? There it is. I think that's such a pain that it does that. I'll just get started. I was 2 hours in. All right, so what I'm going to do is I just heard something right here. Let's go ahead and grab this. Let's copy it. Let's go new. Let's paste this. Paste here. Play. So I'm gonna just travel over here for a minute. Give me a second, and we can go to SoundCloud. I just have to open it up. Let's see. File. Okay, I'm gonna go back here so I can screen share with you guys. Where we go? There we go. Screen share, share here and here. Hopefully you're seeing this now, and I can go ahead and hop off the mic. But what I'll do is I'll play a few things, and then maybe we can talk about it and go over it. Some of these were captured, and some of them are obviously paranormal, because there should be no girl in the woods saying "mom" in the middle of nowhere at like midnight. if you guys can hear me, I would really like to know what you believe this says. I have an idea, but I'd really like to know what you think. So we can, in my opinion, I think he's saying this whole series of events. Let me break it down really quick. You heard that juvenile, what I believe was a juvenile, in the last sequence down here, breaking branches, going after a deer, and doing some things. And there's reasons why we believe this. And I believe when you hear this, it's the juvenile being yelled at. And the older male sounds like it's pissed off and says, "Huff, huff, go lay down," which sounds human. So listen to that again. You can obviously come to this page. There's some that are really good and interesting. I don't even know. I haven't listened to these in so long. Um, from the chat, 37 asked me how I got into Bigfooting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to minimize this now. We'll go back to live events for a little while here. Stop sharing. Go here. Screen share it. Okay, where are you? Share. There it is. I got into this, 2012, 13. I had a sighting while I was doing some metal detecting, and it's one of the worst and one of the best things that ever happened to me, I could say. It's not easy to witness something like this. It changes your whole perspective. It changes your life. Um, the first sighting I really didn't tell anybody about. That was in like 2012. The following year, we were metal detecting. I was with a friend this time. We didn't make a documentary. We shared our encounters in the documentary. I've seen Bigfoot, so you can check that out. That's available on Amazon. I write about some of our research. Uh, I've got a book out on Amazon, obviously, the Bigfoot Report. But really, I didn't want to get into this until that following year when a friend of mine and myself, we were doing some detecting about a mile from the original location where I had seen a juvenile. And then he actually seen a large male before I did. We watched it, go off the trail and everything. And that sparked my interest because I knew it was real. I wasn't alone this time. I had another person witnessing this with me. So that's why I got into it. I want to know more about them, learn language that they speak. I'm trying to follow any evidence, I'm trying to follow their footprint, not per se their footprint, but anything that they leave, like a wake of destruction in their path, the way they live off the land, etc. That's what I'm trying to do, learn about them and get closer. um But I can get back to this. Okay, I will briefly just interrupt here. Recruiter, I seen your post. Basically, what we did is we learned about their structures, and I try not to preach it, but I basically gave people a blueprint to attempt to follow them or find them. So what we were doing is mapping out all the structures that we believed were in this 8,000 acres. And like I said, it took like 2 years. But what we were doing is mapping out the most important structures, not the tiny ones, but like really substantial or larger structures. And then what we would do is constantly return to those structures, along with habituation at some certain areas. But as we would return, we would record, previous photos and previous evidence with new things we were finding. If the structures were being added to, if they were being torn down, if things were being taken away from them, well, that right there tells you that these structures were being frequented. Um, as they're being frequented, it's not us doing it, it's not people doing it, so it must be them frequenting these structures. So what we would do is we would set up in these locations, in these core areas, and habituate. So we might have found, let's say, 200 structures in 8,000 acres, but only maybe 5 or 10 were active to a degree that gave us any interest to come there, leave recorders, habituate, and do certain things. One in particular, we got to this one structure, and it seemed that there was always footprints in the leaf litter coming to it, or coming around it, or coming and going. Uh, this is how we ended up obtaining a few photos that we've shared before, on the trail cameras. And actually, the video of one fleeing that I shared in the last video was in this one area. it seemed that they had continually came to this one structure. We don't really understand why, but we understood they were coming from the northeast and from the northwest, technically, the way the valleys were laid out. And instead of putting, trail cameras facing them, because, well, actually we did this, it was trial and error. We put the trail cameras out, we faced them, they would see them, whatever it was, they wouldn't come around. They avoided it. So once they avoided it, I realized, okay, they're going to go around. So we would look for their footprints, and about 100 yards up, they would make this big U, like this big. They would just skirt right around it. Um, so what I did is I took the trail cameras from the two directions that they would come from. I put the trail cameras in a horseshoe shape, 3 and 3 or whatever it was, total of 6 cameras. So essentially, they would see those cameras. So basically, I would prey off their own instincts. Their instincts would say, "Oh my God, there's cameras. Go the other way, skirt the other way." So when they skirted the other way, there was only 2 ways for them to go. It was almost like what we call a pinch point for deer hunting, let's say, or a funnel. And preying off their instincts, what happened is this is how we funneled them. Not essentially we funneled them, we were able to uh, obtain some of the photos that we did on trail camera, because they were, hidden cameras that they didn't see. And what these cameras were is um, facing the opposite direction. So basically, I anticipated them to skirt, let's say, the northwest area, and they would go east, right? So what I did is I put a trail camera on or close to an area I believe that they were going to walk, and I faced it east the way they were going. So essentially, they would walk past it and capture a photo, and that is, what's happened a few times for us. Just preying on their own instincts, essentially setting them up uh, for failure, and that's what we're trying to do. This year we're trying for more samples. We have some samples that are still out there being tested. We've been doing a lot of things, but that's the direction we're going, audio and samples. But remember, I try to make it fun, and I try to do things. And um, we lost a team member this year, so we're down to 2. Best friend passed away, so we're going to figure out, different ways to do things, depending on other things that happen with my family. I have a family member that also is sick. um, we were invited out to Missouri uh, with a friend of ours, Shane. We were invited up to Maine with Michael Merchant. So there's a few different things we want to do, but the biggest thing is I have to get back on track to regain uh, their location. Before, they were staying in certain areas. So within this 8,000 acres, they would move to like these pod quadrant areas. So they'd stay in like one area, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, and then they'd move off. And we'd have to like follow their not destruction, but their breaks or their noise or their footprints or anything. And then we would find larger structures, and it's like, okay, so they're here. So they just kept moving about, every few weeks, every 2 weeks into these other areas. But now um, they finished these. It's been a year and a half fiasco with these wind turbines they put in, and they kind of scattered them across the area. So it's going to be a little harder for us to find them. But I believe if they continue to use their own habituative nature, they're going to come back to safe areas. Um, for travel purposes, because that's one of the biggest things. If you can find out like how a deer travels, you can kill it, right? So if you can find out how a Bigfoot travels, um, or there's a certain travel method or pattern to it, they will come back. So that's what we're trying. But oh, I didn't even see all your questions, guys. I'm over here rambling. Sorry. Um, Georgia, you have structures filmed for you, some from Georgia and Ohio. Nice. I'd like to see them. You could send me an email. My personal email I give to people is double2012 at gmail.com. That's DOUBLE 2012 let's see. Recruiter, you're crazy. Well, it's just something we got into. You know, I know they exist. I've seen them. I've captured, some photos of them, some video of them, some audio of them. So it's on to the next thing where we really get the good samples. We've sent some away to NYU to a professor. He's tested some of them, waiting for the other ones to get tested. Once that comes back, we'll know certain things, but it is what it is. A lot of times in GenBank, we don't have anything to, let's say, compare and contrast. So a lot of times they come back as human, and they can be a human hybrid of some type. We don't know. We just don't have anything to compare it to. So a lot of times, a lot of people get samples, and it's like, oh, it's human, it's contaminated. That's not always the case. So that's a lot of people are looking into that now. Uh, do I spend the night in the woods or a motel? Okay, so I reside in a small town, Dunkirk. Our area that we research is about 30 minutes away south. It's the foothills, of the mountains, and the mountains actually run down through PA out of Western New York. Sometimes we've done an overnight here and there, but a lot of times, a lot of our research is during the daytime. If you go back and really pay attention to most of the good footage that is out there, the Freeman footage or Patty or footage that we've captured or Independence Day or all these footages along the way, most of them are taken dusk or dawn, and those are times we like to focus is dusk or dawn, in the spring and summer months, because it just seems that's when they're cognitively moving more often. Yeah, you can catch them at night. Yeah, are they nocturnal? Most likely. That's why you don't see them till dusk and dawn, and they're kind of sporadic during the day, but you will get the sightings. Um, that's why we focus on the daytime, though. That more footage, more is out there in the daytime. Nighttime, you're tripping, you can barely see, you're using a FLIR, you're guessing. I mean, there's FLIR footage out there. Did it get us anywhere? No, not really. So most of our stuff is during the daytime. Like I said, the early morning, late evening hours, um, maybe an hour or two in the darkness. Either way, morning or night. What happens when the land is going to be used? Well, that's what's happening, and it's kind of pushing them off right now with these turbines in our specific region. But there's so much land and vast tracts of space out there that um, you would be amazed. I mean, when you're walking 1, 2, 3, hiking 4 miles through the woods or doing whatever, uh, you can evade people pretty well. That I always use this as an example. Let's say you know the woods, I know the woods, and I drop you off, and I say I'm going to come back tomorrow with a team of 10 guys to find you. With a day head start, and you knowing the woods, um, you can probably evade us, sort of like the Bucky Phillips thing. That was in my county. That was in my area here. Uh, he evaded police for 6 months in the woods. Hundreds and hundreds of cops and helicopters and FBI agents. So to think that a Bigfoot couldn't do that with without a problem, that's their home nature. They live there. A lot of times I believe that they live in the creek banks. We've found some areas that are dug out and really opened up in these creek banks that um, yeah, that's a whole nother discussion. But anyway, um, yeah, I believe there's more out there than people think. I did research, so there's like 3,000 and what counties? 3,003 or 30. Anyway, let's say 3,000 counties in the United States. Uh, Out of those counties, let's just say that there are, now you're talking a whole county. If you look at just 10 Bigfoot per county, you're looking at 30 what thousand, a relatively speaking. But then that doesn't include Canada, which is maybe another 20 or 30,000 spread out, across the vast wilderness. So we have no idea, and the reason I go with 10 is because I know of 6 to 8 that have come through my area that are different, that look different, that we've seen, that we've laid eyes on or videotaped, or, imagine the ones we don't see. So Could there be 20 per county, and that ups it to 50,000? Possibly. I mean, I've talked about this at length with all kinds of people. Um, was I scared when I was camping that they would attack? Um, uh, they'll make noise. Like it's like a interaction thing. You have to build this trust with them. It's like a bond thing. We habituated, which I write in the book. We habituated for weeks on end. Same time, same day, same channel, same place. So they got accustomed to us. We didn't cover our human scent like deer hunters do, and we weren't carrying guns, and it was like this interaction, this whole thing. So they got to trust us to an extent, and I really wish I wouldn't have put out the cameras and done that whole trap setup to them. I did get the photos I wanted, uh, but I disrespected the trust, and that's when I had issues with them for like a few months to try to find them. But camping, I mean, you're running all kinds of things, let alone other animals. You have all kinds of nocturnal animals out there, so you got to be careful with that. Um, but as far as attacking, I've never had them, try to attack. Nighttime, you'll hear whistles. Sometimes you'll hear yells. It all depends. Sometimes you hear nothing. It's just, if you're in the right place at the right time, and if you've done your homework, basically we set ourselves up to be in the prime location during that time of the year, whether it be for a week or going back to it every day. Now, like if I have this recording playing and I catch something on this recorder that's from, let's say, 3 days ago, I'm going to go back to that area for the next 3 to 5 days as hard as I can because I know that they were just in that area. So the chances of repeatability or of them possibly eating the same types of food in that area, like let's say berries or whatever it is, they're going to come back to that area. Um, I did not hear about that story. I always like to answer everybody's questions. That's fine. I can go back if you guys want to listen to this. I was going to plan on ending this at 4:30, so about another 10 minutes. And here we go. All right, guys. Till next time, we'll be sharing quite a bit, but at least you got to see how we do things. If there's anything you'd like to see in the future or any ideas, don't be scared to let us know. But for now, take care. God bless. Thanks for the support, donations, everything. Uh, Thank you.